Hello, this is Florian Munsch from Mining Scout. I'm sitting here today with Larry Page. Larry is President and Director of Southern Silver Exploration. And Larry, tell us something about Southern Silver.
I'd be very happy to. It might be good for your listeners to know that Southern Silver is one of 4 companies that's officed in Vancouver and is managed as far as the technical matters, accounting and legal, etc., by a company called Manex Resource Group. I think that's important to say that because there are thousands of public companies on the TSX Venture Exchange, and they're all vying for the same investment dollars. And if we can shorten the odds for the investor so that most of the money goes into the ground, it's a speculative business. If we can attract an investor to invest in one of the companies we're going to discuss today are Southern Silver Exploration, Equity Metals, and Bravada. It might be a good idea to know that they are all managed by a group of professionals who've been together for some 25 years. They range from lawyers to accountants to investor relations people. All of the backroom work that a company needs to exist and do its most important thing, which is put money in the ground, hopefully discover a resource which can become an ore body, which can become a mine. And so that's the story that I'm going to tell you today to see if that is something that makes sense to your investors. And let's talk about the Southern Silver Company first. About 12, 13 years ago in the Manex group of companies, we had a company called Western Silver, and it was a penny dreadful. It had a property in Zacatecas, Mexico. It was a property with no outcrop on it, so there was nothing that said, here is an ore body. But the geologists that were in the company and as part of the Manex group had a view that using science, using geophysics and geochemistry and biology and ultimately drilling, there was an opportunity to ascertain what was under the ground to see if it was an ore body. That was a big success. The shareholders had a $1.2 billion payday when Glamis Gold purchased the control of the company, and then Glamis Gold was purchased by Goldcorp, and that is one of the largest mines in Mexico now. And so that's what we try to do is to bring science, money, perseverance, and expertise and knowledge to mineral exploration. So it's not an exact science by any means, but if you can shorten the odds by bringing all of these abilities to explore a property, then the shareholder has a better chance. Many years ago we had a company called Bravo Exploration, which was listed in Germany and was a big success, and it raised an awful lot of money. It went on to spend $45 million in investing in exploration and development of a property in British Columbia, and then it got sold on to another. We think that we can emulate that success in a company called Southern Silver Exploration. Why? Because we are using the same human resources, and that comes down to the ability to raise money at reasonable prices and deploy that money. It's when you go to somebody else's country to explore, it's a good idea to have people on the ground that know the language, know the law, know the accounting, and we had all of that in place in Mexico.
Yeah.
We utilized those skills and found a property that had a substantially good chance of becoming a mine. That's called Cerro Las Minitas. It's in the state of Durango in Mexico. We've owned it for some 11 or so years. It cost us $4 million US to buy it, and we have done that, so we own it 100%. It's also important to note that when you're buying a mineral property, you'd like to buy it with no burdens on it. A lot of companies that are listed on the TSX don't mention that their properties have a 1, 2, 3% net smelter return royalty on it. That doesn't matter when you're exploring, but it matters an awful lot when you're carving up the money on a production schedule, because that royalty owner gets the money right off the top. And enough said on that. The simple matter is that there are no royalties on this property. Rob McDonald, who's been with the Manex Group for some 20 years, is going to tell you about the property, and if I was telling you anything about geology or assays, etc., take it with a grain of salt. Because I'm a lawyer, I'm not a geologist, although I've been in this business for some 50 years, and a little knowledge is perhaps a dangerous thing. However, this property is one of the largest silver resources in the world. And why did we buy it? It was a mixture of a series of small artisanal properties that nobody had ever put together into a comprehensive package. Rob will tell you it's called the Hill of Many Mines, Cerro Las Minitas.
Yeah.
And when your listeners look at the pictures, they'll get a sense of how this has all come together. We believe that we have the makings of a mine, a substantial mine that will be there for decades. And although we're not miners, we have the ability to bring the property to the stage of an independent resource report by a third party, which will lead to a preliminary economic assessment report. And basically that tells you, is this worth something? What's it worth? How do you mine it? What's its lifespan? And things of that nature. So that's how far we've taken the Cerro Las Minitas property over the last 10 or 11 years. If I continue to say what the resources are, etc., that's a story best left for Rob, so I'll tell you that.
So maybe, Larry, tell us about the upcoming catalysts for Southern Silver.
I'd be happy to. But on the old adage that my old mentor used to say is never enter a room with only one door, we have another property in the company that took us an awful long time to put together. It's a freehold property as well as state land and Bureau of Land Management, which is federal land. It's in New Mexico. It's called the Oro property, and we've put about $3 million into exploration on it. And that leads into the catalyst. That's an extensive drill program that will start in November, December. And what we're trying to do is use science. A helicopter hovering over this great property with a electromagnetic hula hoop that's sending charges into the ground to see if there's anomalies there, and then scientists read this, etc. We've done all of that work, and we're now at the stage where the truth machine comes along, the drill bit.
Yeah.
And so in the short term, we're going to have good news out of Oro. There are 5 historic mines on the property. The old timers with pickaxes and shovels went down to the water level and mined 5 specific mines there in the 1900s. So we know that there's something there on the periphery of what could be a very, very large porphyry copper gold deposit. So that's a catalyst. But let's go back to Cerro Las Minitas, because we are at the stage now where imminently this week we will have an updated resource. It's polymetallic property. It's silver, lead and zinc, and various quantities of it, and those are usually reported in equivalences. So we have, as of 2019, the last time we did a resource, 272 million ounces of silver equivalency, and that's broken down into the 3 metals. Traces of gold, traces of copper, but they're not significant in the resource. However, Rob will tell you that we have deployed several $1 million into the property in the last year, drilling up another area of the property. It's called a CLM East area of the property. We don't have a resource there yet. If you and I sit down next week, I'll tell you about the resource.
Okay.
But I don't have it now, so I live in anticipation as our shareholders do. That will be a big catalyst, because independent people will be able to look at the data. With signing a non-disclosure agreement, major companies will be able to go into our data room and look at the data, and we're fashioning the property and the company so that we're very attractive as a takeout target, and that's a big payday, just the same as the Western silver that I told you about earlier. The next catalyst will be I'm hesitant to say the first quarter of 2022, because they always get stretched, but you take all of the material, you take it to a third-party engineering company, in this case M3 in Tucson, Arizona, which will tell us in a report, which we will make public, how this property can be mined, what its value is, and what the lifespan of the mine will be, etc. So those are the 2 catalysts in the life of Southern Silver right now.
Yeah.
Juniors are either completing a financing or starting a financing. They're always cash poor. In our case, we've raised some $45 million in the last 12 to 15 months. We deployed some of that money in buying out our joint venture partner, Electrum, which had a 60% interest, so we're masters of our own destiny. We've got about $15.5 million in the treasury, and we have no debt. So we're at the stage where if a investor is looking at a company and saying, should I invest in this company, it's de-risked to the stage where it doesn't have to go to the market to raise money right now. It has these points in time where the assets are only going to become demonstratively more valuable, and there's a flow of future news which attracts the market and attracts companies that invest in juniors, but it also attracts people who want a speculative investment, because that's what juniors are. So that's essentially the Southern Silver story, which at some stage Rob can tell you about the property and tell you in a bit more detail what I've just told you.
Yeah, and now I'm giving it over to Rob McDonald, VP of Exploration for Southern Silver Exploration.
Hey, thank you very much, Florian. And yeah, thanks for having me here. Larry has presented, sort of the initial background on the project, but I'd like to get into a little bit more detail on the Cerro Las Minitas project specifically, and what makes it, just a highlight project and a fantastic project. Whenever we get into any areas, and exploring in any areas, you try and look for things that give your properties the best chance to succeed. And so we look for properties that there's good indications that there's world-class deposits around there. You look for properties that are safe to work in. You look for for properties and good jurisdictions, and I think we have all of that with Cerro Las Minitas. We're out. We sit within the heart of the Faja de Plata of north central Mexico, the belt of silver, and we're surrounded by world-class deposits. This is a large skarn system. This is quite typical of a number of world-class systems that are located in Mexico, and we believe we have the next one coming up the line. And these systems are, and very typically, they have what we call a central intrusion. It acts as the heat pump for the system, and it allows the mineralizing fluids to circulate in the country rock around the central intrusion. So we have this central intrusion, and initially when we started exploring, we were able to identify mineralization on the western side, and we've identified a significant mineral resource on the western side totaling 272 million silver equivalent ounces. And this breaks out into over 80 million ounces of silver and 2.2 billion pounds of combined lead and zinc. So this is one of the larger silver-based resources that are, or undeveloped silver-based resources that are out there right now. And so we had some indications that there was mineralization on the eastern side of the Cerro. So there's this, this central intrusion, and all around it you're getting indications of mineralization. And on the eastern side we were seeing some high-grade intercepts, but we weren't sure about the continuity. Mm-hmm. So this about a year ago, so September 2020, we started drilling again on the project. We've now since drilled 22,000 meters of drilling on that eastern side, around 850 meter strike length, and we found now 2 new deposits. The mineralization is it looks very much like this. And so you have
this
in
must
here
be kilograms of silver. So it's
yes,
pretty shiny.
It should be. It should be. There's a lot of galena in there, and that's how the silver carries with the galena, and it's part of the galena structure. And there's some sphalerite in there, and probably a little bit of chalcopyrite, and certainly some pyrite. And so we were hitting more and more of this style of mineralization, and we've now identified 2 new deposits. We're in the process of working these into an updated mineral resource, and within the next week or so, we have preliminary models that we're doing our due diligence on right now, and within the next week or so, we should have an update on the resources. Our plan was to increase these resources by an additional 30%, and we are going to be getting there. I think we're, I'm quite comfortable in that the investor and the shareholders are going to be quite pleased with the additions. What we've noted with our drilling is that we are seeing a higher silver bias to the mineralization, which again is very good because it's the silver in the galena that makes our best concentrate, our highest value concentrate in these polymetallic systems. And so we are seeing a higher galena, higher silver bias, and that's very good, I think moving forward. So there's lots of things to look toward in the coming weeks and months. We have the resource update. We have continued drilling on greenfields targets throughout the property area. There's a secondary claim that we reacquired in the middle of 2020. It's called the El Sol claim, and we've completed around 2,000 meters of drilling on that claim, and we're just getting some of the results back now. We're doing a little bit more drilling in the area of the Cerro currently, but then we'll be going back to El Sol a little bit later. So there's new drilling already in the pipeline, and then, as Larry has alluded to, in southern New Mexico we have our Oro project. And this is a large zoned porphyry, copper, gold, moly system. We've had the property since 2008. We've done some drilling on the gold portions of the property. We've done some drilling on the porphyry and skarn portions of the property. And now we have new data, airborne geophysics, that has allowed us to vector into 2 particular areas. We have 6 holes targeting around 4,000 meters of drilling. And we're in the final stages of having our permits in place. We should have them in November. And so latter part of November, early December, extending into 2022, we're going to have more drilling on that project as well. So there's lots of catalysts that we have lined up over the next 6-month period. The new resource, drilling on CLM, drilling on Oro, and then a preliminary economic assessment of the resource that we have at Cerro Las Minitas. And so for the next 6 to 8 months, we're going to have lots of news flow. It's a great time to be getting in. Prices are a little bit depressed right now, and we think that we can come out of this flying.
But this is exactly when you're going to get in, when the prices are depressed and there's good value in the ground, good news flow coming. So appreciate it. And this was Larry Page and Robert McDonald of Southern Silver Exploration. And if you want to look the stock up, it's listed on the TSX Venture under the symbol SSV, and I will post the WKN for our German followers below. Thank you.